So this year's market and last year's market is a tale of two markets. 2022 started out, it was very seller friendly. There was lack of inventory. You'd put houses on the market, you'd put it on, you'd have an offer date. So it was very good for the sellers, but very tough on the buyers. This probably went from January till about March. You could see a slowdown right after March break last year. The number of showings went down. But just to give you an example, there was one house that we had listed and we put it on at a price that we thought would attract some offers. And we had, in 1 week, we had over 50 showings on the house. It was crazy. And the house ended up selling for a couple $100,000 over asking after 50 some showings. I believe there was 9 offers on the house. So it was tough because people were even having a hard time getting an appointment on the house because it was so blocked up with previous appointments that people couldn't get in. So after March, things started to slow down. The number of showings really went down, but that went right with the interest rate. As soon as they started to raise the interest rates, the number of showings went down. It was still good. There were still some houses that were selling over asking, but it started to slow down. The showings was the big thing. So then it moved into the fall, and the fall was actually very slow. So you saw at that time, it would take quite a few showings to sell a house, but the showings were down. So the days on market was quite a bit different. So that was a lot different than the beginning. And the hard time was with the people, the sellers that you were talking to, a lot of them had expectations. My neighbor sold in January, my neighbor sold in February, and they got X number of dollars. So there was a little bit of a difficulty trying to explain how the market had changed. And if you weren't able to explain this and reflect it in the proper price, then the house would sit or it wouldn't sell. Then we moved into 2023. The beginning was a little bit slower. It was a little bit like the fall of 2022 and getting into December. And it has changed over the last couple weeks, probably 3-4 weeks, I'd say. The number of showings has definitely increased. Inventory is still down, so there's not a lot to look at, but you would see more showings. You're seeing closer to asking price, where in the fall it wasn't unusual to see 5, 6, 7% under asking price, even in some cases 10%, where at the beginning of the year you were probably averaging 110% of the asking price. So the last couple of weeks it has picked up. I think interest rates are still on people's minds, so that's going to be a big thing. But I mean, there's still a shortage of houses out there.
We can just take a look at today's activity on Aura, which is the Ottawa Real Estate Board. We actually have 98 new listings today as of approximately 5 p.m., and that's February 22nd. I always equate 200 listings to be a good day, and I haven't seen that number for a while. And once we get into the spring, we'll probably get over that, and we'll get more listings. There was 23 price decreases today and 0 price increases. So that tells you a little bit about the market, that homes are not selling and people have to cancel and relist or lower the price of their asking price. There was 21 conditional sales, 29 actual firm sales. 10 places got rented today. 21 listings were canceled. 5 were expired and 3 were suspended. And that's just a snapshot of today's activity on our MLS matrix system.
You've seen the market at its peak and you've seen it today. I mean, I found things were a little bit too wild there for a bit. It was hard to put a price on a place. It was hard to advise a purchaser, how much should you offer on this house? And I mean, conditions, during the peak, if you went in with any conditions, you were basically eliminating yourself from buying the house. So it really wasn't good. I kind of use it like there was people buying $1 million homes, and they would spend less time in the $1 million home than they would buying a pair of shoes. So I kind of like how it's gotten back. Like that was crazy. And what I find now, it's just getting back to normal. And I like that. You're seeing some negotiations on the price. You're actually seeing some houses where they're buying conditional on the sale of their house, and you did not see that for the last couple of years. Like you wouldn't even ask the question because you knew it just would not happen. So, what's your feelings about it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I started, in 2020, just when the pandemic hit, and so it was crazy. It wasn't a good way to do business, and I felt for a lot of my clients. I had mainly buyer clients, so if you had a ton of listings, obviously as an agent, you did well for your clients. It was tough with our buyer clients going out and trying to offer on homes, and as you mentioned, if there was a condition in there for financing or a home inspection, they were probably not getting that home. Very, very tough as an agent. You don't want to tell your client that you can't do that, but I think they are able to read between the lines and realize that when these homes got multiple offers and it sold that day unconditional, they understand that the only way they were going to probably be able to get a home. So that wasn't a fun experience for those home buyers. As you mentioned, you're only in a home for usually less than half an hour, and then you have to make a decision on whether you want to buy it or not. Now you can get a second showing, but sometimes when the market was hot, it was even hard to get an original showing, let alone a second showing. I do like the market we're in now. You can take your time and shop around and view, multiple homes. Make sure it's the one that you want. Get your offer in, get a home inspection, make sure your financing is in order, and that's the proper way to be able to purchase a home. It's the biggest investment of your life, and it shouldn't be anything rushed. So I do prefer this market, and I do work with more buyers than sellers, and it is a much more comfortable way to handle your clientele.
Yeah, and it's funny. Everybody, the public's perception. Oh, you're in real estate, and during the pandemic, you must have done very, very well. And you know what? Parts of it were good, but there was buyers, and I know that you had one, but I had a couple that it was 2 years. We finally did it when things started to settle down a little bit last year, but showed houses, probably did a dozen offers with each of them, and it didn't work out. So people don't see the other side. It's not that we're always working with listings, we're working with buyers as well. And two of them ended up buying, and it was over 2 years and probably 50 to 75 houses that showed them and a number of offers. Very disappointing, but it's nice to see now things coming back. But it was interesting how the public's perception, you're in real estate and you must have done well. Well, there was a lot of work with some of those buyers and a lot of time with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it was. You're exactly right, Terry. And I showed some of those homes for your client, as you showed some for mine. I had one client had a very challenging transaction, over 60 viewings for myself with this client. Terry had probably a dozen or so. He was a country buyer, so Terry had sold his listing here in Alta Vista area, and then he had wanted to retire to the country. So he was looking east, west, and south of the city. We were all over the place, and these are not 10-minute showings. These are probably an hour drive at least to get there. These places were selling well over asking and unconditional. As long as you had internet, everybody was willing to move to the country to try to save a few dollars. And these places were going crazy. He eventually purchased in the Renfrew area, and that worked out fine for him. I was happy to finally get him a place, and it was interesting to go through the seasons with him. We started in the summer, went through fall and winter, and he bought late spring. So it's you get to know a client pretty well when you spend that much time with them. But the flip side of it is we there's other clients where when the market has changed now from the a seller's market to a balanced market, or even sometimes into a buyer's market. I had a military client who worked on Leitrim Road and wanted to be in the Findlay Creek area. But when we started, his budget was basically 600,000, and he couldn't get a townhouse for that price. So we were looking outskirts, Orleans, Barrhaven, those areas. But he was patient, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting. And the market finally did change. and the prices came down. He bought he bought a house for 600,000, a townhouse, and I'm going to say a month and a half prior, the house across the street sold for $130,000 more, which he would not have been able to afford. So things worked out well, and the timing worked out well for him. And he purchased, it closed in July of last summer. So it worked out really well for him. And he's 5 minutes from work.
Yeah, and those country properties too, like that was very difficult because you're talking well and septic where if things aren't good, it's very expensive to fix. And a lot of times you were expected if you wanted to get the property that you could not go in with any conditions, and that included the well and the septic. And there's a few people that got bitten by that, but it was tough. Like it was a tough market, especially if you were working with buyers.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people don't realize that new septic systems can cost upwards of $40,000. So some of those purchasers that bought homes with older septic and never had any inspections done could be in for a surprise a couple of years down the road when they do need a new septic system. And there could be some more homes for sale.
Yeah, and that's that work from home and moving out to the country. Just give me the internet so that I could work there. That was a really big trend, and I found the price difference. Like if you take a look at some of the outskirt places, you take a look at Carleton Place, you take a look at Russell, Rockland, those places. Just there wasn't a great price difference from living, say, in Orleans to going out to Rockland, whereas historically there was quite a difference because of the drive that you had to do.